Welcome to Power Pantaloons podcast. My name is Tanya Balarjan. I am your holistic cancer wellness specialist. And today we have Bob. I'm going to let Bob explain his last name because I don't want to mispronounce
Botthof.
it.
Nobody gets it right anyways. Botthof.
Botthof. Welcome
And
to
as
the
you
show,
can
Bob.
imagine, as a child, how many different ways the kids had fun with that.
I can. So let's talk about your story.
So everybody has an idea of my past, and we'll get to where it goes. As a child, my father passed away at a very young. I was at a very young age when my father passed away of cancer. And then for some reason, other people in the family also passed away. It was kind of weird. A lot of people all at the same time. And I think due to all the stress, my mom shortly after was diagnosed with MS.
Oh.
And so the reason I explain this is because at a very early age, not only to become the man of the house, and I don't have any brothers or sisters, but health became very aware to me. And I would say, how does a 12-year-old boy figure out health? Spiritually, because nobody else told me about it. And we're also, born in 68. So, you go back to late 70s, 80s, there's nowhere near the technology and information that we have today.
No.
You want me to stop? Questions?
No, I want you to go. Keep going.
So at 14, a man opened up a gym, like a double storefront. And I remember walking, it was in the city. I grew up in the city of Chicago, walked by, and I thought, wow, that was really cool. And I went in there and these guys just looked amazing. And there was some women in there also, of course, but it was more a man thing back then, not to offend anybody. And it was more like a bodybuilding gym. And so, a young kid asked, could I do this? And I think they kind of looked at me at first like, but I don't know. They kind of were like, I guess maybe they liked me or something. They're like, sure. And I said, well, how much does something like this cost? I said, I'm only 14 years old. And they said, I don't know where they came up. They just, you got to come up with $1 a week. So it was $4 a month. I said, deal. So I started working out there, and these guys taught me how to work out and eat healthy and blah, blah, blah. And then I was able to make a couple more dollars. And of course, we didn't have YouTube and all that. So these were magazines. So I think it was called Muscle and Fitness or something back in the day, but I bought a magazine and I would get that monthly and I'd be very excited, and it would show how to eat and train and work out.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much been my routine for life. Always giving what's happened to my family as a child, and my mom, who is still alive today at 85. So she's survived from 38 to 85, still alive with MS today.
Wow.
Yes. Down to one hand, but she's still able to feed herself. She's in a nursing home and all that. But, if you met her, she'd be thrilled to meet everybody. So happy, so whatever, very spiritual person. And so God bless she's still around, because she was gone, I wouldn't have had anybody. Yeah. But anyways, that whole thing has always been in the back of my head. So even though my health has been sometimes very high, sometimes I drop off with work or whatever's going on in life, but it's always been pretty well maintained. At the age, I think it was 47 or 48, because of me always working out my health, I always went to the doctor twice a year to get a blood test done. Every time they went in there, they said, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. They basically would joke and say, I give you an A on your blood test. There was nothing ever off. They knew I was eating eggs off the charts, eating at that point, at my biggest, I got up to almost 300 pounds as a bodybuilder. So they knew how much I was eating, the fats, the protein, the carbs, everything, in which normal people, they would say, oh, you're eating too many eggs, but my cholesterol, everything was great. So at 48, like I said, 47 or 48, they said, normally we do a PSA test once you're 50 or older, but for whatever reason, let's just do it. I didn't even know what it was. Yeah, whatever. I tell them all the time, check out everything. So, you have to wonder, why did the doctor have that thought at 47 or 48? You know, me, because of being alone, I say it's something spiritual. Something told that doctor to check it. So when he came back, the norm, I guess, for PSA is 0 to 4. I was at a 5.5. So he called me back and he said, well, you know, you're a little high on your PSA. And I said, well, what does that mean? He says, well, you could have an infection, not to offend anybody or be anything, but they could say, he even joked, he said, it could raise because you had sex. There's many things that raises that level. He asked me, do you even ride like a bike? Because he knew I worked out. Do you ride a bike long distance for cardio? Because that will raise it. So there's many things that will actually raise it. So that's where the journey begins. So we start with, well, I'm just going to give you an antibiotic and just come back and we'll see what happens. If it lowers, you know, great, you had an infection. So as you know, and some people out there may know, it becomes this time, right? Everything's like, as much as you want to put it in the back of your head, it really keeps coming to the front, right? Constantly, you know, every time you have a break in the action, at least me, my mind kept going, I wonder what it is. I wonder what it is. So, and you wait the time game. So I went back from another blood test. At that point, it went down a little bit. She's like, oh, it went down a little bit, but I'd like to see it a little lower. So let's just try another round of antibiotics and just see if that wipes it out. So now you do this for a little bit longer and then you go. Then I don't, and I apologize, I don't remember exactly, but at that time I was living in both Illinois and Florida. So I was going back and forth. The next thing that happened was when I came back again, so the second time I did the antibiotics, it actually shot up to like 7.9 or something. And
Oh, wow.
Like, you probably got to get this checked out. So I asked him, what does this really kind of mean? And he said, well, you could have cancer. And so at that point, this is why I'm telling everybody about my health thing, that I'm like, I don't have cancer. I'm the guy that eats chicken all day, exercises twice a day, can't take better care of my health. Not me, that guy sitting at the end of the bar drinking every day with a smoke hanging, eating double cheeseburgers, maybe him, but not me. And so you get into a point of denial. So I kind of drifted off from a little bit, and of course it comes back. And I think that was all in Illinois. So then I got to Florida and I was telling somebody about it, and they said, now you're talking probably a year, it probably was 48. So now I'm like 49. And they said, why don't you go see this urologist in Florida? So I went to see him and I told him what it was. So of course he does the blood test. We come back and he said, well, we should probably do, what did we do first? We did an MRI first because they gotta see. So then the MRI came back and there was a spot. So then now you have to go and get a biopsy. So now they do a biopsy. And so all of this takes time. So I think I was, by the time this all went on, now I think I'm 50. And so they do a biopsy, it comes back. I do have, it's confirmed, I do have cancer. It's just a spot. It's non-aggressive, no big deal. And at that point, I remember sitting in the room as they're talking to me, and it suddenly went like Charlie Brown. Those who remember Charlie Brown, they're all talking, but to me, it's and in my brain, I'm thinking, you've got to be kidding me. Like, and I'm still thinking, there's no way they got this wrong. There is no way these people got it. And I'll tell you what was, once I zoomed back in, I said, all right, so, you know, I don't really know what to say. Well, it was like, there's no feelings involved. And maybe somebody who's involved and does this on a daily basis, I guess it's a job and it's just what they do. And just, but I'm telling you, they went from, you have cancer, to within 5 minutes of jumping into, these are your options, to take care of it. Let me know what you think, and let's make an appointment. I'm like, you've got
Yeah.
to be kidding me.
Yeah.
I actually left. I walked out. So they go, where are you going? I go, I got to digest this. Like, you seriously think I'm going to like book like an appointment right now to do what, you know? And so I left, and they called me back, and I made another appointment. Okay, so I went in there with an open mind, and the doctor explained, for a man, you could have it removed. You could do like chemo and radiation, and they have this new experimental procedure that went on. So I'll explain kind of what happens for a man. And of course, now I'm a young man, so I'm not, this is where my options, you know, I'm basing it based on having a life and being a young man.
Yeah.
Because it was on the inside, it hasn't grown yet. If it was already have spread, I know other people now, because of being this aware of it in my life. If it had already got to the outside, you have no choice. It's coming out. What happens when it gets removed? It damages a lot of nerves, and to politely say it, there's a very good chance your furniture doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe it grows back, maybe it doesn't. Which, when you're, nothing against an older man, but as a younger man, you're really considering what your life is, right? Whether you're single or married, right? What is this going to do with your girlfriend? What is this
Yeah.
going to do with your wife, your marriage? Like, all of a sudden you're supposed to tell your wife, like, hey, there's no more intimacy, you know, or at least like that, right? So, okay, that radiation or chemo, as everybody knows, hurts.
Can I can
Yeah,
I
go
ask
ahead.
a
Yeah,
question? So
absolutely.
they told you in advance that it would affect your sex life, right?
Yes.
They did not tell me.
Okay, yeah, no, because I asked them, when you remove it, now what happens? So that's what it does sexually. And then for a man too, it's very hard to control your urine, your peeing. So here you are also, I'm thinking, great, now I'm going to walk around with a diaper, or I'm going to walk around with a catheter. I mean, this is like, I'm thinking to myself, how did I get here? How did this possibly,
Yeah.
I should have been eating double cheeseburgers and having a smoke and a beer and enjoying myself, instead of all these hours of chicken and working out in the gym, you know, although I did love it, and I would never do the other routine. So that kind of, I didn't really need it. If it's spread, for all of those who was watching, if it gets to your outside, you probably got to almost consider that, because if it moves on after that, I think your liver is the next stop it goes to, and then you're going to really have a hard time
Problems.
trying to
Yeah.
beat it. The second one was radiation and chemo. The problem doing it there, if it's not direct, and they have a seed, and I didn't get too much into it, so if I say something wrong, I'm not a doctor and blah blah blah, but they did say it could affect some of the areas around it. So because
Yes.
you have a lot of
Yeah.
stuff going on in that area, so that could affect you awfully.
Yep.
And then they said, however, we have this new procedure that came out. It's in Europe. We're doing, and they just happen to be doing it in Naples, Florida, and Myrtle Beach. So I said, what is that? And it's called an in-cage procedure. So when you have a spot or two, and now that you have your MRI, and they have an idea, they did the biopsy, so they have a target area of where this is at. So basically, it looks like a corkscrew, like you would open a bottle of wine with. So that would go in, imagine, in that area. Once it's in there, a pin goes inside of that corkscrew and goes into the spot. And I'm giving it the dummy down version. An engineer or
Yeah.
doctor give you the better one. The pin is hooked to a wire, which is basically hooked, let's just say, to a generator that conducts electricity. The reason it's called in-caged is because once they're ready, around that corkscrew has a shield, so it becomes encaged. So when they hit the electric and they basically burn the spot to ashes, it's holding that within that area, so it doesn't affect the areas around.
Right.
Genius, absolutely genius. I still think today genius. However, going back to it, experimental. I was literally guinea pig number one. So
Yeah.
doctors never did this before. And good guy, well-known surgeon, urologist in Naples, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's do it. So we get to the day, we do it. There's actually ended up, there was 3 of us there. I thought I was guinea pig number one, and I joked. I said, we're drawing straws. So I ended up being the 3rd guy that day. So actually I wasn't number one, the other guy. So my operation was supposed to be at like 1:30. I think I went in at like 6:30, which, as you can imagine, you got to fast and do all this other stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And now it's 6:30 at night. I can't even swallow anymore, right?
You're starving, you're irritable.
Everything. And now they've got me hooked up to medication because I'm like, let's just do this tomorrow. I've had enough of this because I haven't eaten. Here, I'm a guy that drinks a minimum of a gallon of water a day, and I haven't had a sip. I'm a guy who eats 6 meals a day. I haven't had a bite to eat. My body is not used to this. This is full blown. Like, my body's going into what is going on today because of how I normally am on my regular routine. Anyways, you'll be fine. They hook me up for some IV. They give me some happy drugs, and I'm good laying there. So I go in about 6:30. I think I wake up, it's almost 10. And this is at like a surgical center, not an ER or something. So when you're done, you got to go. We're going back to, once again now, we're at 24 hours almost that I haven't eaten or drank.
Yeah.
And now for me to leave without a catheter, they want me to pee. I'm like, pee what? I can't even spit right now. So anyways, and of course they want to go home. So I leave with a catheter, and I'm like, okay, it all is what it is. So I'm thinking I'm good, and go back the next day. Of course, now I've eaten and drank and blah, blah, blah. So I'm good. Remove the catheter, and I feel I'm good. So now that you're on this path, and I don't know if it worked the same with you, now you become very much about blood tests. Like, at first you're going for a blood test. I don't even think it was 3 months. It might have been even less, but whatever the minimum is, so you could actually see a change in your blood. So after the test, because of what they did your PSA, mine was at, like, let's just say it was at 19 point something. So it was way up there, but it's supposed to be normal because look what they just did to you, right? So it's coming down. Everybody's happy, right? It comes down, it's coming down, it's coming down. This is probably, it takes time, probably 2 years plus. It keeps coming down, keeps coming down, keeps coming down. Everybody's happy, do my thing. Okay, great. I hit a point, and it never got below 5. I get to a point, and all of a sudden it's going back up again. So, like we've spoke,
Yep.
we gotta check this out. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, let's just check it out. I'm like, I know what this means now, right? At least my mind is thinking what's going on. So once again, same thing. MRI, and then I think they did the biopsy, and then now there's a machine out there. It might have been out there too, but now I do a second machine that's like an MRI. So how it works is, whatever this fluid is that they have to, it literally gets flown in by private jet in the morning, and your appointments are like 3 o'clock or later, because it literally was getting flight in from Tampa into Naples or somewhere, Fort Myers private airport. And then they bring it to the place, they inject you, they put through the dye. And now the reason for this test is they could tell if the PSA is now spread throughout your body. So has the cancer grown beyond your prostate, because the MRI only could see what that area was. So at least for that, they confirmed that it was not anywhere else in my body but there. So, okay, great. So I do the same procedure again, and I guess I apologize. I'm jumping around. The reason I chose to do this procedure is for a man it will take care of it.
Minimally,
Right,
minimally invasive. Yep.
right. You're not going to have any problems using the washroom urine wise, and no effects to you sexuality.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm in.
Serious considerations. Even
Right.
even even if you were a woman, these are considerations you would want to talk about and be aware of. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So they said, let's just do the same thing again. And this way we know you're good. The biopsy comes back and the spot has became into what I would call like a flower now, just so people have an idea of like, it didn't really grow, but it in different spots, but the spot has now grown. It's
The
gotten
edges
larger.
have changed.
Yes, it's gotten larger. The one
Yeah.
spot has gotten larger. So I didn't think nothing of it. They're like, well, now this has been years, right? They've been doing this. So now, you would think that they got it right. So I went in this with no doubt we're going to get it and we're good. And they said,
Right.
well, we're just going to get a little more aggressive this time. We're going to make sure your whole prostate's good. Okay, whatever that means. I mean, you guys are the surgeons. I mean, I went through it once
Yeah.
and got out of it and had no problems every way that I've explained. So, okay, let's just do it again. And it was Memorial Weekend. I went in on a Thursday. I was supposed to be good by Tuesday to go back to work. And I had a catheter, of course, when you're done with this, because they did get so aggressive, I couldn't go. But by Tuesday, you'll be fine. They blew it up to the point. Memorial Weekend went by. 4th of July went by. And now it's Labor Day. And I still got a catheter in.
Oh God.
Yes. And I own a construction business and I have to meet people and drive a dump truck and do many things. And here I called it my ball and chain. And to make everybody laugh a little bit, that damn bag couldn't blow up at the wrong time every time. I'm like, oh
Yes.
my God, here we go. Right. So, because there's no control of when it fills, if anybody's never had that. So
Correct.
anybody who has, they get it just to make a laugh. Like you go to meet somebody, make sure you're good. And as you're in there, you're going, oh my God, you're kidding me. So anyways, you make the best of it because you assume you're good. Finally comes out and I can pee somewhat okay, but at least the thing's gone. Because of the level of them basically burning the inside of my prostate to be a little more aggressive this time. My prostate does not produce semen anymore. So do you want me to tell a little bit what that means, or?
If you're comfortable talking
Yeah, I
about it,
don't mind. I don't
I
want to turn this
no,
more descriptive than people need. So
the whole purpose, like I put this not safe for kids, but the whole purpose of this podcast is so that the general public understands the things that cancer survivors go through. And the more we talk about the ugly parts of it, the more people can be prepared and less shocked if it happens to them.
yeah, or you decide to ask more questions, right?
Yes.
And make the
Yes.
doctor more aware. So educational, I guess I will say, if I'm correct, this is why I'm told. My prostate does not create or make semen anymore. Semen and sperm, which I learned, as even a man did not know, are two different things. So your testicles create the sperm. The semen is how the sperm travels. That's
Okay.
what I've been told. I'm not a doctor, but I've looked and I think I've got it pretty right. So now what happens when you orgasm, nothing comes out. Now I have spoke to other people, and there may be some gentlemen on here. That's actually a side effect too for other people that because when I finally was able to not have the catheter, but I really couldn't go, I couldn't put out a fire if I had to, let's put it that way. They give you a medicine called Flomax. And one of the side effects to Flomax is, they call it a dry orgasm, is that you will not, it's a dry orgasm. So you learn all these little things that kind of go on. So moving forward, I'm finally able to do this. That is not working. However, I'm thinking, you know what, I guess look at the positive. You're still alive, right? Okay, I can't sit there, poor baby, you can't orgasm correctly, although it does kind of mentally mess with a man, I think, to some point. Or if you were a younger man, the reason I say that is that if you were married and you wanted to have children or something, these are kind of the questions that need to be
Yeah,
asked. I mean, there's a lot of things that, people just think, well, it's only sex, right? Or however you want to put it, but
it's not
it's
though.
part of life, right? It's
Yeah,
part of two people, it's part of the relationship, however you want to put it.
yeah,
So I'm like, okay, but it's behind me. So, all right. So I go back, same place still. We're doing blood tests, comes down, comes down, comes down. Ooh, it's going up again.
Jesus.
So I will tell everybody, I can't confirm whether it was back or not. My levels were going up. Now, after going through all of this, they say, you know what, let's just remove it. I go, you're kidding me. I've gone through like now 5 years of hell, mentally, physically, spiritually, everything you can kind of think of. And now we're just going to rip it out. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'll be honest with everybody at that point. I was like, whatever, however this falls, it falls, but I am not doing this again because once again, so I just got rid of what I called my ball and chain. And now we're going to go back to that or a diaper or whatever. But of course, these same people that said I'll be fine, of course, say again, well, once we remove it, you'll be fine. Like,
Yeah, I don't believe you anymore.
no, the trust is gone, right? And then I almost felt like, a few things. One is this like just how you people make money. I felt like I started to get on a train of your insurance, just bill your insurance, you're on the train, you just keep moving, and this is just you never get off the train. So I just decided I'm done with this. I'm not willing to go through this anymore. I'm not removing it. It's not all over, it's not been spread, it's not blah blah blah. And I just said I'm done. So I left. Speaking to some people that knew that I had it, they're like, hey, how's that going with that? And I told them the very quick version of what I've made a kind of a lengthy version with you. But I said, I don't know. In my mind, I'm good, and I'm good, and I'm not going to deal with it. And I'm done. I'm done. I don't think I have cancer in my mind. I'm just trying to, and I started to get very much of things at this point, mentally and spiritually, and listening to things. And many people talk about you could cure yourself by your mind. There's a Dr. Joe Dispenza, if anybody has ever listened to him, quantum physics, and so I'm going to move on with my life. I'm not going to continue to do this. And so in talking, a friend of mine mentioned that he knew somebody that did healing via like frequency. And so frequency to me is like very Star Trek-y. Like I'm thinking like this is like, it doesn't even make sense. He goes, I'm telling you, I know somebody that actually didn't have a prostate or a cancer problem, had a heart problem to the point their heart was working at 20%. And via frequency, his heart is fine. He's still alive today. He went back to the heart doctor, and heart doctor says, I can't believe it, but that medicine that we're giving you is like
Working amazing, right?
Yeah. He goes, I just want to tell you something, Doc.
Not taking it.
I haven't taken that in like 6 months. And of course, it's not just the via frequency. You mentioned, or I don't know if we mentioned it, but we're all kind of part of the 10X thing. So the 10X health. And a good example of people are watching this and like, oh, where's this guy going? Or is this guy just talking? Listen to the 10X Health
Gary
with Gary
Brecka.
and Dana White, right?
Yep.
Dana had that heart, and like, this dude's gonna die, just sold his business for $1 billion or whatever, and that heart doctor, and he's on all these meds and blah blah blah, and happens to run into Gary, and they do what 10X Health does. Today, Dana White no longer takes the meds. His health is cool.
Yep.
I think he puts Gary on a pedestal, but says, I'm good. So there is other alternatives, that if people are wondering, like, where's he going with the Star Trekky thing and vitamins, and I'm not saying for everybody that that's the cure for everybody. I don't want somebody to go, I'm going to do this because if I don't know what level of life you're in, but there is, well, just say is there's level of options or health to do this in different ways if options are available, that you don't have to go the other way. So going back to it, the man that took care of this man that had the heart problem, he was not taking anybody, but he knew a lady that actually was doing the same thing. So they have some technology out there. I'll just say this. They have technology out there now that can scan you, almost like the movies. When you watch these movies that scan a person, and they have the technology out there, you have to find it.
You have to be able to afford it.
You're paying cash. Yes. But they'll scan you, they'll tell you what's going on. I was forewarned that be prepared that we are going to scan you from head to toe, that you may find out things that you don't want to know. So there was some other things that was going on with me, even though Mr. Health, but you're getting older. And then they explained what was going on. This is no problem. We can take care of this. This is no big deal. And of course, at this point, I am feeling like this is very Star Trek-y. I don't know how else to put it. I'm thinking these people are just going to take my money. Like, my mind is bouncing between hope that, like, I want to be cured, I want to be done, I want to live, I want to move on, and I want to be done with this. And the other one's saying, hey, dummy, these people are just going to take your money. Like this is, like I keep saying, it's very Star Trek-y.
Yeah.
And so I just made a decision that, well, what do you have to really lose when we're talking about this subject here, right? Because you can't take the money with, and thank God I got a couple of bucks, I guess, that I was able to gamble on. So I gambled on it. And part of what I did was, so they scanned me, they found out what I had. I had a few things going on besides that. One was actually my heart, and some blockages and some other things. And just kind of like Dana White. So I'll use that. So if people want to verify it via YouTube,
Yep.
with the guy who's actually a celebrity. One of the things they asked me right off the bat was, could you do vegetarian or vegan? And I said, I'll do anything I have to do. It doesn't kind of matter. I mean, you're telling me if you're going to cure me, I'll stand on my head for a day. Whatever you need me to do, right? So looking into it, I said, I'd like to try vegetarian. If I have to do vegan, I guess I'll figure it out. But all of those who are out there who are vegan, God bless, because they are very, very strict, determined people. And because that is not easy. So those who do it, and those who make fun of them, shame on them, because whether you agree with what they do or not, that is very, very hard in today's world, at least to me, to eat that way, because I couldn't figure out how I was going to get enough nutrition for myself to still be able to keep up the level of health of working out, running a construction business, blah, blah, blah. So I said, I'll do vegetarian. And I think because of doing the bodybuilding for so many years and eating so much food, that I could almost tell people, I could tell you, when we all know, like, chicken used to be very good when we grew up. We couldn't wait till our mom made chicken. Or for me, I had my mom, maybe your dad made chicken, or whoever made chicken for you. But it was the most delicious thing you ever tasted. And then somewhere I would probably say in the 2000s, it was like, what is this chicken? It like grew, it was bigger, it was tougher, it was kind of funky. Kind of was like, this is like eating your flip-flop, right? So that's when all this hormones and stuff started kicking in. And
Yep.
like back in the day, if somebody made you a steak, you were like, wow, this steak's delicious. And then as we all know, now you got to be so picky of the steak you eat, especially I'm not a big chewy steak guy. So not into the fat, not into all that. It kind of grossed me out. So I would eat something of not like a fillet or something of that. And even a fillet was getting to be hit or miss, right? You spend all this money on a nice steak and you're like, wow, it's just okay. And I'm like, man, how much did I spend? So I think for many reasons, it was very easy for me to do the vegetarian thing. And then even there was always since a little child, but it was just the way it is. I did not feel, there was always something in me that always bothered me about eating an animal. I don't know. I just didn't think it was right. I don't think it just bothered me. So that's just me, or killing something, but that's what you did. That's what you ate. That's what's on your plate. You did it. So I think when they said, could you do this for me as a vegetarian or to be a vegetarian, I turned that switch off. Like, yes, I can do it today. And I did it literally, like, no even thoughts of it. Like, how am I going to do this? So I just kicked in, and in the beginning, I'll tell you, like, vegetable fajitas was like my
Favorite thing?
got me going. Yes, because I loaded up, as we know, and like I said, I would put the beans and the guacamole and the cheese. I needed to enjoy something, right, to get me going in this. And then as we went, I was drinking vegetable-based protein drinks. I do eat eggs for protein. I started to figure out how to make like a vegetable-based chili. So you figure out how to do this. Like now, my routine is very simple. And even now, I think I've been doing it now for over a year. The world has become very simple if you're a vegetarian. Everybody has an option on the menu or a couple options. Like when we were in Dubai, half the menu was vegetarian. So it's becoming a little more, I think, the norm, right? Versus like somebody looking at you. I mean, I'll be honest, when we're in Dubai and even other places now, people they went from like, well, we got something on the menu for you, to now they can't be more accommodating. It's almost like
There's a shift.
yeah, there's a big shift in it. And I've had many people have been asked, like, could I ask you, like, how is that? And I'm like, I love it. I absolutely love it. I love it. There's so many different ways to eat now. I love it. I figured out how to figure out how many grams of protein I need to get in today, every day, my carbs, my fat, I work out. By doing vegetarian for me, because it was probably a calorie thing. I was dropping a half a pound every other day, maybe. So I started out my journey probably around 245 when I started vegetarian, and I bottomed out somewhere. It was actually GrowthCon. I don't know if you went, but GrowthCon 2023. I was around 220. So I went from 245 to about 220 and absolutely loved it. Plenty of energy. I was back to like where I had abs again and looking good like I used to. And so I enjoyed it. So the holistic part of this, the via frequency. So, and then I got a little off track there, but now people get that part. So the via frequency, a lot of part of it was vitamins. There's a lot of vitamins out there. There's a lot of different vitamins out there, or superfoods, or whatever you want to call it. So it wasn't just, I started taking a B, a C, and a D or something. I was taking, to detox me, things like sea moss, and I can't remember them all, but there's a lot of really, really, with the help of YouTube, Google, people like yourself, you could really, really find some things. 10x Health, right? They do. Yes. I just actually went to do it. I want to see what they come up with me. So between I I have a doctor that I see in Chicago that does a very extensive blood test. So that's who I go to now. I do not go to that urology place anymore. And now I wanted to, now the 10X Health thing. So between the two of them, I want to compare what the gene test, blood tests, and this, and you're spending a couple dollars, but they're tests. And at the end of the day, either one of them are just recommending vitamins. So you have no more scripts involved, which I don't like. You take one and then it's got a side effect. You take another one. So go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. However, some people absolutely require their scripted medicine, but personally, philosophy, the faster I can get off whatever it is, the healthier I am, the happier I am. And I would rather do it herbally and naturally, if at all possible. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and once again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not telling everybody throw your script in the garbage
No, I'm not
today.
saying that at all.
I'm just saying there's alternative options should you want that, and then do your homework and feel free. If anybody wanted to reach out to you or myself, if I could help any of your viewers in any way or pick my brain. So between that and then the other thing we did for which I would say for people that if they wanted to detox themselves, because this was a big part of it. So I was drinking charcoal AM PM every day for like 6 months. Charcoal completely.
You're talking about activated charcoal.
Yeah, I would actually made it easy because I tried to drink it, and I'll just beware people if it's just me. I tried to throw it in a glass of water and kind of mix it and drink it. Well, I almost freaking choked because you can't get it to the level of, it's like trying to drink dry powder. Now I had this dry powder in my throat. I'm like thinking, oh my God, here we go. So, and I live by myself, right? I mean, so I hope some people are laughing because you can imagine like you're by yourself, and I don't mean it's funny that you're choking, but I'm thinking, oh my God, here we go, right? I've got the water from the faucet in my mouth, trying to rinse this charcoal out. So anyways, for that time, I would make an AM and a PM protein drink. So I would put it in there. And then, of course, I'm getting some more. And once again, my protein drinks, if anybody want, are vegetable based. So they have alternatives now besides just, it used to be like when I started bodybuilding, the only option was a whey protein, and they're kind of terrible, but you drank it because you wanted to be this big bodybuilder guy. But now they have delicious flavors, and they're in vegetable based, and they come with probiotics, and just there's wonderful things out there. One scoop is like 20 or 30 grams of protein. And that's about what you'd like to get per seating. If anybody ever wanted to pick your brain or ask me about, grams of protein per meal, carbs, fat, blah, blah, blah. So for me, being that vegetarian thing, it was, I was do a scoop in the morning, scoop at night. Well, there's 60 grams of protein coming from a vegetable-based protein. So I put the charcoal in there, and that would detox me. One thing I'll teach everybody again that I learned. In the beginning, I thought, well, I'm going to do this all at once. I'm going to drink my protein drink. I'm going to take my charcoal, and I'm going to take all my vitamins. But I found out, hey, dummy, guess what happens with your vitamins if you take them with charcoal?
You cancel it out.
Charcoal. So I finally told the woman who was treating me, she goes, how's it going? I go, good. I've got this down. I'm taking my protein drink. I put my charcoal, and I take all my vitamins, and I'm good. She goes, no, you're not. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, charcoal is detoxing you. So all you're doing is taking your vitamins. And I'm like, well, that's good. It was like 3 weeks into this that I found out
throwing them down the drain.
That God knows all the vitamins were going, gone. So I learned that I would do that. She goes, wait a couple hours and then take it with your, when you eat your meal. So, okay, good. So we got that. And then the other thing was we cut out, I ate no sugar, even fruit. No sugar. That was like, no, you don't eat any sugar. Maybe that's too why I think that the weight was coming off. You stop eating sugar and it will drop. And no alcohol. And I'm not really a big alcohol guy anyways, but no alcohol, not even socially. I had no drinks, not one alcohol drink, no sugar. I never cheated once because I figured I'm paying cash and I want to be cured. I want to be done. I'm giving this 1,000%. So it was basically a very healthy vegetarian diet I was doing, drinking my stuff to detox me, my vitamins. And like I said, no sugar, no cheat. I mean, I did it for there. And you really, for the first, because I do enjoy a dessert, I'm not gonna lie. I think everybody does. So at the beginning, it was like a little, probably if anything was tough, not that I'm a big sugar guy, but once in a while or when we're working and I'm absolutely like, and I'm in Southwest Florida working outside doing asphalt, it's the sun is and the heat is getting you. There's nothing better than like slamming a Coke at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon just to get you through the day. And now that was gone. And I didn't drink a lot of pop, but every once in a while I'm like, you need something. So I did none of that. And they were kept scanning me and you're good. And it took me about 6 months. I did the whole thing. It was about 6 months. And now I go for my blood tests and I'm good. I will say for some of the other men out there again, that not everybody's PSA is zero. And I do think the doctor should really check this a lot earlier than when you're 50, because
Do a baseline.
there's no baseline. Right, you're exactly right. I think it's the most insane thing to start taking some kind of test later in life because you have no idea what was it when I was young and healthy, right? So you don't have, so I might have been a 5 my whole life.
Yep.
So I sit right at like 5. I don't go any lower. And of course, because of the medical side of the world, and I do see an actual doctor right now who does do my blood tests in Chicago, like I said. But he explained to me, he goes, I got a guy who compulsively loves to ride his bike. One of the, the little skinny seat and lives in, I don't know where he lives, but rides his bike. He goes, his PSA is over 20. It sits there, but he doesn't have cancer. His PSA is up there because he's riding that bike and it's pushing it on there. So the number doesn't necessarily mean it has to be zero. Any of the numbers I've learned, you really learn a lot of this stuff on your
Hitting
own.
a baseline, and so that you know
Right.
what your number is. Do it
Right.
every once in a while, every 5 years or whatever, before you're supposed to have to do it. Having a conversation about what the medical system is and what kind of overhaul it requires is a conversation we don't have time for
No, I
today.
understand. I'm just, if any of your viewers, just to plant a seed, we'll call it, right? And if your viewers look into it, maybe we have another conversation. I don't know enough of that. Maybe bring somebody else on it. I could sit in, give them my 2 cents, but like I said, all I can say is what kind of worked for me.
Yeah.
Just to plant a seed out there that so people, if maybe they don't like what they're doing, or maybe they're taking something, they don't feel good. Like, even though I'm taking this thing, I don't feel good. Well, if your brain is saying you don't feel good, listen to yourself, listen to your brain, listen to your gut. They're not going to lie to you.
I that's a soapbox I stand on a lot, is you intuitively know what you need. Your body tells you. And that's how I work. We create a holistic wellness blueprint based on what your body is drawn to. Not everybody wants Reiki. Not everybody wants to deal with aromatherapy or specific herbs. Your body knows, and it'll tell you instinctively what it's craving if you take the time to develop a relationship and listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll find something when you find the right thing. Like, I even tried acupuncture. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it for me, it did not work. My body just the entire time, and I gave it a few shots. I didn't just do it once. I gave it a few shots. Just didn't like it. Where other people I've had do, they absolutely love it. So you're right. Listen to what your body likes. You'll find something, your body will go, oh, right? And you'll just find
Yes.
this relaxing, like, oh my God, your brain will say, I feel good.
Yep.
One thing
Yes.
I would say, and I guess I'm probably forgetting a few things in this story. The other thing I did during that detox was ozone therapy. So the way I did it was, they had they're bigger syringes. I don't have nothing. It's not like a little one like you would get a shot from the doctor. It's a bigger roll. Think of almost like a paper towel roll, that type of thickness, not as long, maybe like a toilet paper roll actually. So they fill that with the ozone, and they put an IV in you and with a tube, and they draw blood out of you. And the place I did, they draw blood out of you, and the ozone is in the syringe already. They mix it, so my blood would come out darker brownish, right? Darker reddish, whatever you want to call it. Once they swirl it, it was like the most beautiful red. Now they don't disconnect anything, and then they put it back into you. And I started at about 30% ozone, worked up to like 40% ozone. And they would do it. I started at 3 times they would do that. So they would disconnect it, there's an on-off kind of thing for the tube. And then they put the next one. By the time you pay the receptionist and you walk out that door, my mind was saying, my God, I feel good that fast,
Yeah.
because you're putting it right into your blood. Once again, I'll plug 10X. They do the ozone therapy. So, that's something they do. I did even speak to, I'll plug them again. I had a chance to talk to Gary a little bit about the frequency thing. I wanted to see what he was going to tell me, like, it's a little Star Trek-y. He goes, dude, we're already on it. And I was like, good, because I didn't want to get into this long conversation. It wasn't the appropriate time, but there is going to be, matter of fact, there's going to be a time, I believe this is going to replace what we know today.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Bob. I agree. Well, listen,
So that's kind of the journey. How about questions or thoughts? I don't want to
no,
keep you all
it's
day.
been amazing. I really appreciate your honesty. I know that it can be really hard to talk about having cancer, going through the journey. I know it's definitely hard talking about sexual dysfunction and stuff like that, but I also think that it's very important to talk about it. So you're right. So other people can ask their doctors more engaging and more probing specific questions. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right when you say the mental part, because whether you have somebody to talk to or not, at least for myself, it's a lot of a waiting game, right? And a lot of hoping, right? You're hoping that when you go for that result, you're like, I'm done. And
Yes.
you find out you're not, and you're like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me, right? So it is very hard. So people know people that are on there. I know you say, oh, be positive, be this. And of course you have to be all of the above, but you also got to be strong and understand what this person is going through.
Yes.
And it is a mind game, and it's a game you got to play to win. You can't throw in the towel. You have to play to win. And
Yes.
there's people like yourselves and yourself and other people that just reach out, right? Even if you just want to talk,
Yes.
because that little talk that gives you that little bit of like a spike or a little high, maybe that's all you just needed to get through that day or get over that hump for the day.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. All
but
right. Well, until next time, Cancer Warriors, have a great day.
thank you. Thank you for having me.